Anda masih menyaksikan Sharia Economic Forum CNBC Indonesia bersama saya Andi Shalini dan masih bersama saya di studio CNBC Indonesia Iskandar Ezzahuddin, Presiden Direktur Prudential Syariah Life Assurance atau Prudential Syariah. Iskandar, let's continue our discussion. Speaking of market share about assurance, what is Prudential Syariah's market share position in the Sharia insurance industry in Indonesia? Also, what market segment will be the company's focus for expanding its customer base and ensuring more people are protected by Prudential Syariah? Is the younger generation, such as millennials and also Gen Z, is the key focus for a company?
Yeah, great question. I think if we look at market share, when we look at the Tabarru fund size, for example, we're number one in the market. When we look at the size of our agency business, we are also number one in the market. But I'd just like to say that at 1% penetration rate, I think there's room for all of us to grow as an industry. And I think we welcome competition. I think competition is good. It raises all boats, and I think it's provide great outcome for the customer. So I think that's where we need to focus. And as an industry, how do we grow this industry together? How do we drive financial literacy together? And I think when it comes to our focus in terms of market segment, the way I would think about it is to focus on having the right products for the mass segment. That's really where the big opportunity is. Because as I mentioned earlier, the focus on the industry has always been on investment products, which is great, which continues to be an important product today. But as more and more mass segment are coming and understanding insurance, there is a demand for more protection or traditional-based products. So that's going to be our focus moving forward. And also, when we look at pricing of our products, we need to be mindful that the mass segment has also very limited discretionary budget. Therefore, pricing it right, making sure that it's affordable is an important element. The other thing I would say is also making sure that when we come up with products, that we address specific pinpoints of the segment that we are addressing, which is the Muslim segment. And what are the Sharia proposition that we need to build in on top of the insurance? So the insurance feature needs to be strong in itself, but on top of that, how do we build the Sharia proposition on top of those products?
Well, do you see there is a differences between the approach for Gen Z between the other generation?
I think, to be honest, the difference is more around the needs of the middle class and the emerging middle class versus the affluent. I think that's where the biggest difference is. And also, insurance typically bought when people achieve certain milestones in their life, whether it's their marriage, whether it's their firstborn child, or whether they get into a sickness, for example. So there's certain triggers for people to buy insurance. And we in Prudential Syariah, we need to ensure that we have a complete suite of products based on the different life stages that they are in.
So far, do you see middle income class, there is a phenomenon that the purchasing power is quite slowing down. So how do you think of this?
I think it's funny because typically the people who needs insurance the most are generally the people who are not aware of insurance. I think if you're thinking about the middle class segment, where typically you have a breadwinner and anything happens to the breadwinner, the financial stability of the family is immediately under threat. These are the people that actually requires financial protection. However, because of how at part also the industry's own doing, insurance typically are associated with investment. And so when people think about insurance, people think, oh, it's for the rich, it's for the affluent, it's not for me. And that's what we're trying to change in Prudential Syariah. We want to drive the message that actually insurance do not have to be pricey. if you're focused on protection. And the protection element is actually very affordable. And that's our focus in Prudential Syariah, making sure that the products are affordable for exactly that segment that you just mentioned.
So how do you overcome this stigma for this?
Well, generally we try to disassociate investment products, which typically tends to be a bit more pricey, and products that are focused purely on protection, which means if anything happens to the person, you get a certain sum of money, whether it is a medical condition, and you get cover only for that medical situation. So there isn't any investment that is linked towards the product. You don't wait for like 10 or 20 years and you get some sort of an investment return. And typically when you disassociate those two products, you find that the protection products typically can be priced quite affordably. However, that is not to say that investment products do not have its place. Investment products are also an important element of a complete suite of products, right? Because as people get more affluent, they want to make sure that they are able to also save some money and put it away for a better future.
Right. Amidst of the huge potential of Sharia assurance regarding the 2024 National Survey on Financial Literacy and Inclusion, it was reported that the financial literacy index for Indonesia has reached around 65%, while the financial inclusion index stands at 75%. Unfortunately, the literacy and also inclusion for Sharia finance are still low at around 39% and 12% respectively. As one of the leading full-fledged Sharia insurance companies in Indonesia, how does Prudential Syariah plan to support the improvement of Sharia financial literacy and inclusion, particularly in Sharia insurance?
Yeah, I think financial literacy is still pretty low in Indonesia. And if you think about Sharia financial literacy, typically it's even lower. And in Prudential Syariah, we are focused on working with the mass segment. How do we drive literacy within the mass segment? And one of the things that we do is we work with Islamic organizations to drive a lot of events wherever they're at and at all the multiple different parts of Indonesia. We also work with Sharia event managers as they do a lot of events, whether it's at the mall or at hospitals, and to make sure that the word about the importance of financial protection goes out. Now, apart from that, nowadays people try to find information digitally. So what we've done is we've developed what we call a Sharia Knowledge Center, SKC. It is really a compendium of Sharia financial content all in one place. It's done in a easy to navigate and very easy to understand language that people can just browse. Today, it's one of the more popular web pages that we have on our site.
Speaking of digitalization, how Prudential Syariah implement the digital for its product?
I think when we talk about digital, there is, of course, the back office digital and the front digital. Today, insurance is still pretty much a people-to-people type of a business. And the reality of the insurance industry is that nobody gets up in the morning wanting to buy insurance. So generally, it takes a more of a longer form type of engagement. And I think that will continue to be there. And that's why I think for quite some time now, the insurance industry is still predominantly driven by the agency as well as the bank assurance. Now, however, on the back end, there are a lot of digitalization that is happening, whether it's on how we manage our claims, how do we manage our operations, how do we manage the information transfer from the agency portal to our back end. A lot of that is happening. So that results in a much better overall customer experience, has been reflected in our Net Promoter Score.
Right. It's not just about products, services, or customer. People behind the Sharia insurance industry are equally important. So with that in mind, what are your directives to the management of Prudential Syariah regarding the development of high-quality, integrity-driven human resources, particularly in relation to Sharia insurance's talent?
Yeah, I think the talent when it comes to Sharia insurance in Indonesia is still pretty small. And that really makes sense because the industry in itself is still quite new. What we're doing in Prudential Syariah is, number one, we bring expertise from all over the world to come here. So, for example, in our team, we have people from Pakistan, India, Malaysia, Singapore. We believe in bringing the best minds into Indonesia to provide that different perspective. Secondly, we are also looking at attracting talent from Sharia banks. So today, for example, we have 2 of our ExCo members that comes from a Sharia bank. So they provide a different perspective, right? Especially when it comes to product development and service. The other thing that we're doing is also to attract people who are just interested in the Sharia space to come over, and we provide training and upskilling for them so that they are able to contribute. And today we have a couple of our ExCo members who are non-Muslims, but just as passionate and as knowledgeable about Sharia as any one of us, and an extremely important part of our team. As you mentioned, I think people are extremely important for the industry, and I believe that for Indonesia to be an international hub for Sharia insurance, we need to, together as an industry, develop the talent pool.
Well, thank you for sharing your perspective, Iskandar Ezzahuddin, Presiden Direktur of PT Prudential Syariah Life Insurance, for the very insightful discussion in CNBC Indonesia Sharia Economic Forum. Always success for you and all your team in Prudential Syariah. Stay healthy.
Thank you very much, Sasa.